Hi, my name is Julie, and I'm going to talk to you about the way I think about my career today. In the last couple years, I have worked at a consumer tech startup, and with Ramit's help, I've actually been able to just about triple my salary into the high six figures area. So hopefully, I'll be able to give you some helpful advice and stories today about how I did that.
Awesome. Okay, thanks for taking the time to come in.
Of course.
Okay, so what I want to do is kind of talk about your career because it's been a very interesting one. Some people think that top performers knew exactly what they wanted to do when they graduated, but that wasn't the case with you at all.
No, I had no idea. I think that I had not spent a lot of time thinking about what I actually wanted to do. I kind of continued along the path that I had set myself on since I was in high school. You know, when I was in high school, I did mock trial. So I kind of went through college thinking, yeah, I'll just become a lawyer. And I never actually did any research into, what are other career options out there. How have my skills and interests changed in the last 4 years of being in college. I didn't really spend enough time reflecting. So, when school ended, I kind of just went to law school because I thought that was the right thing to do at the time. And it was also what my family expected. I'm Asian, and it was definitely expected that I would go on to grad school. There was no way I was supposed to be done at the end of those 4 years. So I went to law school, and that's how I ended up there.
And what was your experience at law school?
I was miserable. Well, I think everyone is miserable in law school their first year, even if that is their actual dream. But so just imagine for people who don't belong there how that first year feels. I felt so isolated, and I think right away when you're on a path that's wrong, and when the skills are not quite the right match. I was getting A's in law school, but something always felt not quite right. I was using skills that I didn't enjoy using. For example, you have to be extremely detail-oriented to be a great lawyer. And I would say that I am. I'm way more detail-oriented than the average person, but the level that is required to be a top attorney was something that I just found so tedious and draining. So things like that, I realized that I just felt really unhappy in school because there were skills that I guess I learned that I missed using, that I wasn't using at all. And then I felt like I was forced to do a bunch of things that I didn't enjoy that much. So, I didn't do as well as I could. And that also made me unhappy as well because, I'm used to being one of the best at whatever I do. And I definitely wasn't there because I was unhappy, and it wasn't the best match for my skills.
Did you ever think ahead and say, what happens 10 years from now or 30 years from now, and how did that make you feel when you thought about that?
Yeah, I realized that I was 10 years from now, I already knew by my first year, 10 years from now, there's no way I'm going to be an attorney. I will probably, practice law for long enough to pay off, any debt that I have, and then I definitely need to switch right away. And I think when I started thinking that way, I thought to myself, why would I go through 2 more years of school to practice law for a few more years to only not use that degree for the remaining years of my life? So I think that was when I started questioning maybe this isn't worth finishing. Maybe there's an idea of where I should just really cut my losses now. So yeah, that did make me start to think in that way.
It's surprising to me because there are so many social factors that were working towards keeping you in law school. Asian parents,
definitely.
Right? You had graduated from a top caliber university.
Yep.
Your friends were either making a lot of money or were in grad school.
Yeah.
And then you'd already spent a year in grad school. So it seems like it's almost too late to leave.
Yeah.
So how did you start thinking about that?
Yeah, that was really scary. It took me a long time to pull the trigger on that. I think that I knew by the second semester of my first year that I wanted to leave, and I didn't actually withdraw until the first semester of my second year. But yeah, it was scary because in a way, I had to admit that I made a mistake, and I had to admit that to everyone I knew, all my friends and family, that going to law school was a mistake. It wasn't the right decision for me. You do feel like a failure at the time because you always feel that way when you say that you're going to do something and you don't see it through to the end. So in a way, I did feel like a failure that way. But then when I started to think about my life in terms of how did I spend the last year of my life and how did that feel, I realized that 1 year of your life is no joke. So when I thought to myself it's only 2 more years, no, 2 years of your life is no joke. I cannot spend 2 years of my life doing something that I know is not the right thing for me. 2 years is not short, 2 weeks is not short. That's just the way I see my life now. So when I started to view my life from that lens, is, and I'm not going to waste time anymore, just because I'm, afraid of what people will think. I finally gathered the courage to like tell my family, tell my friends, and withdraw. And my parents are still disappointed, honestly, in the decision, and they're still kind of like, no matter how much money I make now, they're always going to be disappointed as Asians until I have like a graduate degree. But like, I don't know. Someday when I buy them their third car, they'll get over it.
My mom still sometimes asks me, "Are you sure you don't want to be a doctor?" I'm like, Mom, I think I'm doing all right.
Yeah, exactly.
Plus, oh my God. Okay, so one thing really stood out to me about quitting.
Yeah.
Well, I don't even think you used the word quit in that whole thing you just discussed with me.
Yeah.
So do you consider it quitting?
No. I'd say I left law school, but I don't really think of it as quitting, because I think of it as really being aggressive about taking steps toward living the life that I want to lead.
Yeah.
And so that's what I had to do. I had to leave law school in order to do that, in order to move forward.
It's so interesting. The main difference I notice between you and certain people who, quote, quit, is that many of my readers, for example, they don't join one of my courses. And this is why. In the research we found, they say, I'm afraid of not following through. On all the last things I've tried, whether it's reading a book or trying a course, I haven't followed through, and it would be psychologically devastating to me if I tried this and I didn't follow through again. Now, you didn't, quote, follow through law school, but the difference is you did it strategically.
Yeah.
Like you thought about the issues, you weighed them carefully, and then you decided, okay, this is my best course of action. In other words, you were conscious about it.
Yeah.
That's very different than most people, do you think?
Yeah, I think that people just, or at least the way I live, is that I'm not afraid to like admit that one path was not the best one, and to kind of steer myself in another direction. And I think that's okay. I think that you need to always be open towards possibly better opportunities that lead you down a different path. You need to be resilient, and like I guess I never even think about it as like not following through, because whenever a better opportunity comes along, the old one just kind of becomes irrelevant to me at that point.
It's funny, I had a friend of mine, and this is when I was thinking about leaving a company of mine, and I was worried because I had invested a lot into the company and time, and I was known for it. And she said something I'll never forget. She said, here in Silicon Valley, nobody cares about what you did, they care about what you're doing. And it's still stuck with me years later. And I also think it's not just true about Silicon Valley. What you've done in the past matters, but really what you're doing now and what you're going to do.
No, that's totally true. That's totally true. I think that I was worried that like leaving law school was something that would like, be like a stain on my resume forever. But as soon as I landed my next great job, like the fact that I was in law school for only 1 year became totally irrelevant to all future employers. So I think that's like exactly right.
Okay, let's talk about that. So you and I reconnected, and I remember we spent hours on, it was like AIM.
Yes.
So I had some experience in the career space, and we were chatting on AIM all day long. And do you remember the nature of some of those conversations we had?
Yeah, I remember that I was totally afraid to leave law school because I thought that I would be unemployable. I thought that like I had no skills, and I thought that no one would want to hire someone who withdrew from law school. Yeah,
I remember you constantly were worried about what would someone say if I only have 1 year of law school. Like it will be this horrible thing, and they'll fixate on it.
Yeah.
And do you remember what some of my advice was back then?
Yeah. Well, first I remember you telling me that I was wrong, that I had in saying that I had no skills, and you definitely like sat me down and like helped me realize that like I have tons of amazing skills that I just wasn't even aware of. So we definitely sat down and we did that. And then as for the like law school thing, I guess you definitely prepared me for the interview process, in that like I control how I tell those stories. And if I put the right messaging around it, then it was going to be fine. So, I knew that if I could go into those interviews and just be open, that people would respect me for it. And you were totally right. Like not one interview did I go into, did someone come at me in a way where I felt like I had to defend that decision. They actually commended me for my courage. And almost every single person who interviewed me said, they knew an attorney out there who no longer practiced law, who wishes that they had never gone to law school. And so they were more just curious about the story. So I was just really glad that like, you helped me realize that, like, I don't know, I guess, I think people probably always have these stories in their head for why they're afraid to do something. And that's what I had. I had like this story that like this law school thing was going to hold me back and I wasn't going to be able to get a job. And that was all in my head. Like people's reactions were totally different as long as I was prepared to come out there, and like have like a good story for it.
I remember telling you these things, and then the thing I remember was that you were actually really receptive to it.
Yeah.
And I remember I sat you down and I said, look, I'm going to help you, but you have to actually fall through with what I say.
Yeah.
And we tested these things.
Yeah.
So you went out to the interviews, and like you said, not one person ever said that. And you were able to reposition that story in your head.
Yeah.
But what happens a lot of times is people get these stories in their head, they never test it. And for years and years, it just manifests in their head,
Yeah.
and then it becomes actually truth.
Yeah.
I think that's great. So I remember discussing you going on several coffee meetings
Yeah.
to meet people.
Yes.
Right? And it's like kind of unusual
Yeah.
to do this because most people, when they think about jobs, the first thing they think is like, I'm going to update my resume
Yeah.
and then I'm going to put it into some website.
Yeah.
But we took a different approach.
Yeah.
And I said, no, you're going to go do research before,
Yeah.
which in the Dream Job program we now call natural networking.
Yeah.
But I forced you to go out there and talk to all these people.
Oh my God, thank God you did that because that helped me narrow down my world because based on the skill set I just labeled, like there are a lot of jobs that fall into that. So I mean, I was looking at everything from like becoming a wedding event planner to, the job that I eventually had, which was institutional sales on Wall Street. So, I mean, those are worlds apart, but they have very similar skill sets in a way because they're someone where, you need like amazing people skills, amazing sense of like organization. But yeah, so I went out there and like I got coffee with like top people in these industries like you told me to. And it's amazing how nice they are about like meeting with kids or if you play it right. So, I met with like wedding planners who were planning weddings for like The Bachelor on ABC in LA. So, I mean, I got out there and met with people and like, if you meet, it was great because when you meet with people, you start to like really understand like their day to day. And I was able to like narrow down and say like, well, the wedding planning was really glamorous, but like something about that didn't like feel right to me because it just felt very like service oriented. And so I kind of like was able to like cross that off really quickly. I was actually surprised about how much I ended up liking Wall Street. I had initially had that not really on my list because I had done a Wall Street internship the summer before my senior year at one of the big banks and didn't have such a great time that summer. But like going back again and talking to some people like in Wall Street jobs, they all like really enjoyed like the challenging environment. And there are, believe it or not, like teams on Wall Street that are like very social and different, which is why, I ended up on a sales team on Wall Street, which is different. When you hear about investment banking versus what I did, like I was not doing investment banking. My job was challenging, but it was definitely like my job was to travel and develop connections with, CIOs and all of their analysts and educate them about our products. So, that's very different from being buried in spreadsheets all day. So, yeah. I mean, sorry, that was a long-winded answer, but yeah, meeting people helped me narrow it down. I think there is no other way to really understand what's the right fit for you until you talk to as many people as you can who are doing the day-to-day job that you want. And, along the way, you can uncover something that you had never considered would have been, could be a really good fit for you.
A lot of the stuff you've been talking about is stuff that exists around you, but we don't see it.
Yeah.
We almost have to put on like different lenses.
Yeah.
And like we talked about your network and how you didn't realize you had it, but once you put on these different lenses, you saw it.
Yeah.
And then all these other people that are walking around us every day, and we're one hop away, and they actually want to help,
Yeah.
but we just never think like that.
Yeah.
We say words like, what could I have to offer them? Or
Yeah.
why would they ever take time out of their day? But actually, there are reasons. Even if you're young with no skills and no experience, that's actually an asset to meet some of these people.
Yeah.
By the way, one of the things that we did in the Dream Job course was we actually included my best emails.
Okay.
So my best tested emails,
Okay.
the subject lines and the actual copy, and then we actually deconstructed them and showed them why they work.
Oh, cool.
So imagine how useful that is to people who are just starting off.
I wish I had that.
Man. Okay, so let's now talk about, you take this job at a Wall Street firm.
Yep.
You're in California though.
Yes.
And you do it for a couple years.
Yeah.
And this is actually part of a 3-year program, is that right?
Yep.
Okay, so talk to us about, towards the end of that, or towards 1 or 2 years into it, what's going on with you?
Yeah, so by around the second year, I felt like I wasn't learning anymore because these analyst programs on Wall Street are very structured. Or at least, I could say at my bank, it was like very big and bureaucratic. So, when you ask for more responsibilities, they can give you responsibilities like up to a certain point. But then when you want to do X, Y, Z, it's like, well, only associates make that salary, was what they would tell me. And only associates get to do this or that. And we will promote you to associate, but it can't happen until you are 3 years old. That's the rule. You have to be here at least 3 years. No, we cannot promote you to associate at 2 years and 3 months. So it's really rigid that way. So I felt myself feeling really frustrated because I was 2 years in. I felt like I needed bigger challenges. I wanted a bigger role. I felt like I was doing the same thing every day and I wasn't learning anymore. And I was like, what am I doing here if I'm not learning? It's like I couldn't stand going to work because, why are you excited to get up in the morning if you're not going to learn something new? That was when I really realized that, salary alone, is not enough to keep me happy somewhere because I was definitely making, more and more money every year. They were definitely giving me huge bumps from year 1 to year 2 and from year 2 to year 3. But by the time I hit the second year, it just didn't seem like it would have been worth it to stick around.
Can you talk about that? Because I think for a lot of people, there's this dream that if I only made this much money, I would be happy, or I would be good, or I'd be rich, or whatever. You were making a lot of money, single young woman.
Yeah.
But yet, it's so surprising to me because just 2 years prior, you had said I could never get a job, I'm unemployable, I have no skills.
Totally.
And all of a sudden here you are saying I'm making bank.
Yeah.
And I'm not, it's not enough. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, I was even amazed that I thought that way because I remember, this was my first job out of college. But I would say that after you get to a certain point in salary where you're able to, pay your rent and go out and live a normal life, the additional salary, it just felt like it didn't mean enough to me anymore. So when I was 2.5 years in, I was only 6 months away from a really, really big bonus. So
can you give us a sense of what a really big bonus means?
It would have been, about in the six-figure range.
As a bonus?
Yes, as my bonus.
On top of your high salary?
On top of my high salary.
Okay.
So I was on track to get a bonus of that size, and but I decided I wanted to start job hunting because I was like, no, working here 6 more months is not worth that salary because that's 6 months where I'm not learning or growing. And I guess I was able to make this decision because I think that, at this point in my life, everything that I'm doing now is an investment in the future. So I just feel like there will always be enough money to be earned in the future. And as long as I'm always spending my time challenging myself, then I'm really maximizing my long-term earning potential that way. So, I was walking away from that big bonus, but I felt like if I found a job where I'd be learning, that money would come back to me in the future 10x somehow.
Two things that strike me about what you just said. One is there was a real sense of urgency.
Yeah.
And the second thing is this idea of abundance, that there is money out there.
Yeah.
That I don't need to just corral and scrape it and hold it close to me right now.
Yeah.
Because I know the money will come later on. Can you talk about the urgency?
I guess I do everything urgently because of how much I value my time. Especially now while I'm young, I learn things so quickly and easily. I have all the time in the world and all the energy to take on the most challenging jobs that are out there. And so, during these years while I'm, unmarried and have no children at least, that I feel like I need to be really aggressive about going out there and taking jobs where every day I'm confronted with a challenge that totally confuses me, and that scares me and that keeps me up at night. I feel like if I'm not working somewhere where when I'm in the shower in the morning, I'm worrying about something, and then something's wrong because you should be solving problems so interesting that you just can't stop thinking about them. And if you're doing that, then you're definitely growing, and you're setting yourself up for rewards that you will reap with your next position.
It's not just about what you're doing today, but about what's going to happen 2 years from now as well.
Yeah, exactly.
A lot of times we focus on just what we're doing today,
Yeah.
but not think about how we're positioning ourselves for the future. You did a great job of that when you turned down a 6-figure bonus to think about where am I going to be 2, 3, 4 years from now.
Yeah.
Yeah. But one thing that confuses me a little is a lot of people feel what you felt,
Yeah.
but they don't do what you did. So
Yeah.
they feel like I'm bored at work,
Yep.
or I'm even making a decent salary. It's pretty good maybe.
Yeah.
And I really should be doing more with my life, and I don't want to end up like that guy who's been here 30 years.
Yeah.
So they feel that way.
Yeah.
But you actually changed. You
Yeah.
actually left. You literally walked a walk and turned down 6 figures
Yeah.
of a bonus. What's the difference there? Why do some people just feel this way, and why do some people take action on it?
I think that you have to actually believe that you can live like the life that you've always dreamt about. And I feel like I'm doing that now, and I think that a lot of people believe that's out there and that's waiting for them, but you have to really believe that you can have it now if you just, take the steps that are needed to get you there. I think it does take a lot of confidence to walk away from a job that, where you'll never get laid off because it's a stable company, and where they're paying you a very comfortable salary, to say that, I can leave this because actually, I believe that I can get something, there is something better out there, and I know I can get it.
All right, so I love that. So let's now talk. So your second job, you're potentially have 6 figures
Yep.
coming up in the bonus in 6 months, and you're like, no, I'm done. So at this point, we were,
Yes.
we're good friends at this point
Yep.
still, and we start talking again.
Yes.
So what happens now?
So at this point, I had been living in the Bay Area for a while, and knew pretty confidently that I wanted to make a move over into tech. And because of my experience at the big bank, I knew that I wanted to work somewhere small, because I wanted to work at a company where I would be rewarded for being hungry, hungry for more responsibility as quickly as people are willing to give it to me. That's not what I wasn't getting that at the bank, and I knew that I needed to have that at my next job. So I told you that I was, definitely on the market for a job, looking for something in tech because I wanted to work with a consumer product for sure. I knew that. And then I wanted to work somewhere on the smaller side. And I would be willing to do anything to get my foot in the door.
And we talked about you taking a pay cut.
Yeah.
Because almost no company can pay as much as finance does.
It took me so long to get used to that
Yeah.
concept, by the way, because you work on Wall Street for a couple of years, and you start to develop this inflated ego because you think that you just think you're worth so much because they pay you a ridiculous salary. You're in your early 20s. I was making what my mom and dad made combined when I was right out of college. So I was like, this is what I'm worth. And then I started job hunting in tech and realized that is not what I'm worth in the real world. That is definitely not what I was worth. So you prepared me to take a huge pay cut, and I accepted that because we agreed that right now learning is priority one, and money will come later.
Great. All right, so what did we do then?
So then we did what we did before, and that we hit up our networks. We figured out, what are the companies that fit the profile for what I want. Who are the people we know who could help me get a foot in the door there, and set up a bunch of meetings again.
Nice.
Everywhere.
Okay. And you went into these meetings, you're kind of surveying the lay of the land,
Yeah.
trying to learn from these people and say you're trying to guide yourself. Am I on the right direction?
Yeah.
Am I using the right phrases when I go into these interviews?
Yeah.
And really just gathering up intelligence. And
Yep.
these people are happy to help you with this.
Yeah.
Okay. So you're doing informational interviews.
Yes.
Let's get down into how do you get that job?
Yeah. So should I just talk about the position that I'm in now?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I had a friend who worked at a consumer tech company. Of course, I'd known him for several years, and didn't really bother to learn about the company until I decided hey, I'm going to see, who in my network could help me and what are they doing. So this happened to be one person on the list, and I learned about the company where he was working, and asked him about it, and then he was nice enough to introduce me to a bunch of his coworkers. So it was always in very social environments. They'd be grabbing drinks after work, and I would join. So I met up with them very casually over drinks over the course of several months. Honestly, of just really getting to know each other. And then because they, they even said that, oh, we're not hiring right now. We're not hiring anyone right now. They said that to me for 6 months. They said that to me. And I was like, okay, well, let's just like keep in touch. And then finally, like they raised a Series B. And all of a sudden they were like flush with cash and like looking for, smart, hungry people. And, I had been around. So when they had the money, actually, they created a position for me. So like there was never any job application. There was never any job posting. They were like, oh, here's this cool girl who's like smart, and she's clearly obsessed with us because she's been like in touch with us for months, and like we don't really know what she's gonna do, but like let's create a position for her because like she's smart and like we'll all figure it out.
So I'd like to extract some points from this because it's a pretty amazing story.
Yeah.
But there are some core patterns in there that anyone can model.
Yeah.
What if you had submitted your resume through the front door the first time you heard of this company? What would have happened?
Oh, they would have definitely ignored me. Like, even as someone who came in through a friend, the tech startup, like, they saw my Wall Street resume and they're like, yeah, she's really smart, but like, they didn't really know, they wouldn't have known what to do with me. And they would have never met me in person too. I think that like, I ended up getting hired because they liked me as a person, not because, I came from like a really good school and worked at like a good bank. Like that, that was like a nice to have, but that definitely wouldn't have gotten me an interview.
Most people would not be prepared to spend 6 months.
Yeah.
But, to you, it was more of a social thing.
Totally.
With a little bit of, hey, I'm kind of interested in this company.
Yeah.
We call this entire process, it doesn't have to take 6 months. Usually
Yeah.
it actually can be compressed into weeks.
Yeah.
The VIP application process.
Yeah.
And it's the difference between people submitting their resume through the front door
Yep.
versus going out to meet somebody.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's even the hiring manager
Yeah.
or just someone on the team. And what it does is it totally decommoditizes you. So most people are kind of like salt. Like when you go to buy salt at the grocery store, you don't care what brand it is, it's a commodity.
Yep.
That's the same thing when I look at 100 resumes, right? They're just pretty much all the same.
Yeah.
As a hiring manager, by the way, how much time do you give each resume when you review it?
Probably like less than a minute.
Yeah, I give it less than 10 seconds.
Yeah.
About 7 seconds on average.
Yeah.
What we teach people is how to get those informational interviews. And then when you meet someone in person and you're likable and you ask great questions,
Yeah.
you're instantly separated.
Yes.
You're not even in the same league as other people that are being considered.
Yeah.
Do you think that there were people who were more skilled than you who applied to this company?
Oh yeah, I'm sure that there were people who had worked at tech startups before, doing something like very similar to what I had been doing. And they hired me with 0 experience in their industry. I knew nothing really about tech or startups or online marketing when I was hired, but because I was able to connect with them on a personal level, and like help them build their confidence that I was smart and like really more than anything just wanted to learn, like that made them want me on their team.
Now let's talk about that. So you end up taking this job.
Yep.
So just broadly, is this a consumer tech company?
Yes.
Okay. And how long have you worked there now?
Just over 3 years.
Okay. One thing I want to mention about the timeline, just a few minutes ago, you and I were talking about your friend who's been at that company for 7 years.
Yeah.
And you said it like this, you said she's been there for 7 years.
Yeah.
I want to clarify that for top performers,
Yeah.
it's very unusual to stay at a company.
Yeah.
Honestly, most people are in their 20s are moving around every 2 or 3 years.
Yeah.
Is that weird? Is that surprising? Or why do they do that?
Why do people move around? Yeah, because I think that almost like no matter where you are at a certain point, like if you're a top performer, you're gonna hit a point where you can't move up anymore, because where the last up is going to be like, senior management, like the co-founders, and so then it's like time to like move on, because you've learned like everything you could from like your peers and from senior management, and then you need to move on to like the next challenge.
I keep hearing you use the word learn.
Yeah.
That's not something that average performers use a lot.
Yeah.
What's up with that?
I guess I think of it as like you need to learn as much as you possibly can from the people that you work with. So it's not only just like general knowledge transfer, it's like skills and how they operate. I've been lucky enough to work like for example, where I am now, I work really closely with a CEO who's one of the smartest, most talented people I've ever met. And when I first started at this job, we worked really closely together every day, like building models for the company, building marketing models, and in working really closely together, like I became like 100 times better at Excel. This is going to surprise you at the startup because working with him than I was when I was at Wall Street. So I was like hired because they're like, oh, this is like an Excel monkey, she'll be amazing. But I got to work really closely with someone who was somehow like 10x better than me even. And so within like 3 to 6 months of working with him, like I then like raised like my ability to model in Excel to like a whole new level. So that's what I mean. Like you work with people and you work on all these different projects, and you just learn as much as you possibly can from them.
You have prioritized learning above money,
Yes.
but it's interesting because the money came.
Oh yeah,
Let's talk about that.
definitely. Yeah, it's weird. I've never been super focused on money. So this is it. I'll say I've never been super focused on money, but I will also never miss an opportunity to get more.
Okay.
So I would say that like it doesn't drive my career decisions, but when an opportunity comes up to ask for more, I will take it.
So give me some examples.
Yeah. So an example would be I wanted to go to business school and got into a top business school, and realized that acceptance letter was worth some money to me because like if either I would go to business school or I would stay, but if my company wanted to keep me, like they would have to make it worth it for me because I would be deferring business school for a year. So I kind of gave them, instead of just leaving for business school, I kind of saw an opportunity to like where I could stay for one more year, help the company grow, but they would have to like really make it worth it for me.
And how
to
did
stick
you,
around.
what were the actual words you used when you broached that conversation?
Yeah. I sat down with the CEO and he knew, of course, that I had the acceptance letter because he had, been one of my recommenders and he knew it was coming, so it didn't surprise him. And I was like, listen, I've been here for several years now, and it's been great, like being here, watching the company grow, like helping build this company, and I really feel like I'm working with all my friends right now, and we're all working. It's like great feeling like you're coming to work, spending days with like people you care about, like building something that you really feel like is going to like change the world, and I would really like to like be here to like see this through for another year. I feel like the company could definitely benefit by having me around for another year, because I think that there's a lot more that I can continue to do to help us grow and really become that household name that we've like always wanted to become. But at the same time, like I've always wanted to go to business school, so I can go to business school now, but like I'm open to staying if we can figure out like how it would be good for me to stay in a way where my role is growing so that I'm continuing to learn, because I don't want to stay here unless I'm still challenged. So my role needs to expand so that I can continue to learn. And if my role is going to expand, then I think that my salary needs to be adjusted as well.
Wow. So let's deconstruct that because it's
Yeah.
like pure genius in the way you constructed it. Now, one of the things I noticed about that was it was very focused on them,
Yeah.
about 80% of the way, and then you came back to you, and then you went back to them again.
Yeah.
I noticed, of course, that you have an offer from somebody else.
Yep.
It's a business school in this case,
Yes.
which just sets the tone for the conversation.
Yeah.
I also noticed that you almost created this tautology, which
Yeah.
was genius. You said, if I stay, not I'm going to stay, but if I stay,
Yeah.
which is code for it's contingent upon you making me an offer.
Yep.
If I stay, I want to learn new things and be challenged.
Yeah.
And if I'm challenged in a new role, then I need to be compensated appropriately.
Yep.
You literally created that equation, and then you said, so what can we do?
Yeah.
Very different than what an average performer would do, which is, first of all, not come in with an offer, and then they would simply come and say, I've been here 3 years, I feel like I deserve a higher salary, can we discuss it? And the hiring manager, you know what they would say? What would they say? What would you say? What would you, if you were not so nice, what would you say to like someone who came in and said that?
It's like, why should I pay you more just because you got into business school?
So you have to
Yeah.
frame it right.
Yeah, exactly.
You have to frame it. And there's another thing, by the way, is that you were extremely valuable to the company, right?
Yeah.
Why would they pay you so much if they could find another bottle of salt
Yeah.
to replace you?
Yeah.
So what ended up happening?
So what ended up happening was we, structured a plan for me that would take me through till, till I would start school. So basically, one, I got them to accelerate my vesting period so that I would be fully vested before I left for school, and we would make sure that I had enough equity such that in an average case scenario, I would be able to fully pay for business school, and pretty easily actually. And then two, I got a 20% salary increase on my base.
So ballpark, if you were to net everything out, what's the ballpark of what this conversation was worth?
Oh, that conversation was easily worth $100,000 to $200,000 to me.
Great.
At least.
At least.
Yeah, it depends on how well we do.
That's very interesting.
Yeah.
All right, so you mentioned your salary has tripled in the last few years.
Yeah,
so
pretty much.
That's a combination of when you first started and then this raise, is that
Yeah,
right?
and the raise with bonus, yeah.
Got it. Okay, now it's interesting because when we talk about money, it's kind of like you brush it off. I mean, it's nice,
Yeah.
right? It's like a nice little flag you have, and yeah, it's an accomplishment.
Yeah.
But now you're making a significant amount, as you mentioned, in the high six figures. For someone in their 20s, as a young woman, that is extremely unusual.
Yeah, I guess.
So how do you think about money now? Has it changed from that first job that you had?
Yeah, I think that I definitely don't worry about it as much. It doesn't excite me in the same way. Your first job out of college is like very exciting to like eat dinners.
like I can afford this drink.
Exactly. Exactly. Like, and to be able to, like now when you eat out with friends, like someone will get the tab and like no one thinks about it, whereas like back then you're like divvying it up by the dollar. So I think it's nice. I think the more that I like continue to drive my career in this way, I just keep finding like the more money keeps coming.
Yeah.
And I guess I just learned that like I don't have to worry about it.
Yeah. You and I, when we talk about careers,
Yeah.
both of us, the money thing comes up occasionally.
Yeah.
But I think we end up talking about things that are a little bit deeper than that.
Yeah.
And that is what I've found of top performers. It's
Yes.
almost like money is it's like a detail.
Yeah.
Yeah, the money's gonna come.
Yeah.
Right? And you see this kind of like, you see this in many places where people have something, they're just like, yeah, it's gonna happen. Like
Yeah.
it's a detail. I remember a friend of mine was gonna start a company, and he was so accomplished. He was like, yeah, I'm not worried about like fundraising. I'm sure we'll raise money.
Yeah.
And it's funny because most entrepreneurs are like, oh my God, how am I gonna get that first investment? And he
Yeah.
was just like, no problem. He ended up selling his company for tens of millions of dollars.
Yeah.
One of the things that I want to emphasize to my students, and especially my dream job students, is like, yeah, the money matters, but as you start succeeding and embodying these principles, the money's going to come. You actually start thinking about deeper stuff, about
Yeah.
meaning, about am I wasting my time?
Yeah.
Am I creating the maximum impact?
Yep.
Are these the kind of things that you think about?
Yeah, definitely. I definitely think about like how I spend every minute of my day, and like, am I working in areas where I just totally crush it? I mean, like right now, I work in a very fluid environment. I could be doing anything at the company, but I found my niche where I know like I add a lot of value, where I like am indispensable to the company, and I'm like laser focused on being like, I'm not trying to be just the best person at the company. I've like looked at my CEO in the eye and said like, I'm going to be the best person in the world at this, and I'm going to become that in the next year.
Yeah, amazing. All right, so I just kind of want to wrap by discussing what advice you would give to someone who, let's kind of paint the picture. They're not necessarily, they don't hate their job.
Yep.
Maybe some of them feel a little like anxiety that they should be doing something better,
Yeah.
that they know that they have more potential than what they're doing.
Yeah.
They're making a decent income. A lot of them are making 50 to 65K. And they're like, what should I do next? Like,
Yeah.
is this it? Shouldn't
Yeah.
I be flying around on with CEOs on jets?
Yeah.
Like going to Vegas all the time?
Yeah.
Like, shouldn't there be more? And also, I don't want to be like that dude who's 48 years old
Yep.
and he's working at this company. He's been here for 25 years.
Yeah.
So what advice do you have for them, especially because you have gone through such rapid changes in the last few years?
Yeah. I think that you have to want more for yourself, and the way I've always done it is I really do take things only 1 year at a time. Some people do it, with a New Year's calendar. I do it around my birthday. And I kind of have a vision for myself for where I want to see myself in the next year. And it's always a very aggressive plan. And it's not always, it's not only related to careers. It's like really like how, what is my vision for like a better life for myself in the next year? And it's everything from like, what do I imagine my responsibilities will be like at work to, how good of shape am I going to be in physically to how good are my relationships with my friends and family. And I do this, and I take the time to do this every year. And I think about like, how far have I come last year? Like, where did I like fall a little short? And what, what do I want to see change for myself next year? And you'll be amazed how much you can accomplish in 1 year. I'm like 5'2", and like I lost 10 pounds in 1 year. That's a lot. That like changed my body, and I did that in 1 year. So there are a lot of things that you can do in 1 year that will make your life very, very different. And so I would say, if you do something like this every year in 1 year increments, you will be amazed how far you're. Like when I look back 3 years ago, if I thought of myself 3 years ago to now, I would have thought it would have been impossible to make those jumps. But I did them in like manageable increments. And so it just makes it all like feasible and clear when you take it 1 year at a time.
So one thing I remember, Julie, that I thought was a really thoughtful touch is that when you got that job at the current company you're at, you took me and another friend out to a dinner. And it wasn't just any dinner. It was actually one of the top restaurants in San Francisco, and it cost hundreds of dollars per person.
Yes.
Talk to me about why you did that, because I thought it was very thoughtful.
Yeah. So the people I took out to dinner were you, because you had helped me with my job search. Like you've always been helpful for me. And then it was my friend who, had let me hound him for months about what it was like to work at the company where I'm at now. And he vouched for me to help me get my foot in the door. And I think that like it's important to stop and take the time to show your appreciation for people who have like taken the time to help you. Because like sometimes people don't even shoot off thank you notes or even tell you, like after they make an introduction, they don't even tell you that they reached out to the person. And I've always like tried to do the opposite. Like I over communicate, and like I'll not only say like, oh, I met with John and things went great, and I'm also now doing this. So like always keep people who have connected you like in the loop throughout the entire process, like up till the very end. And then for people who have helped you a lot, like definitely, show them like how much it means to you. Like a couple $100 is really nothing when you consider like you just really want people to know that like you wouldn't have been there if it weren't for them. So yeah, I'm glad you appreciated it. And I think that people should do things like this more often for people who help them, because it will just make everyone more willing to help each other in the future.
Yeah, I still remember it 3 years later.
Yeah.
And of course, it makes me want to help again, right? Mm-hmm. One of the things we have in Dream Job is a technique called the closing the loop technique. Mm-hmm. And it's all about making sure that people are aware of what you did. In fact, if you introduce me to someone, not only do I want to tell you, hey, thanks, Julie, I'm going to follow up with them.
Yep.
2 weeks later, I want to let you know, hey, I met them for coffee, and here's what I got out of it. Why? It just makes you appreciate me and everybody more.
Yeah.
And that makes you more likely to help me, and it makes me a better relationship with you. Everybody wins.
Totally.
All right, so I want to just wrap. Let me try that question again. You and I have been friends for a long time, and I was more than happy to help you with this stuff for free, right?
Yeah.
It was just a fun thing that I helped a friend with.
Yeah.
A lot of the people who are listening, they don't know me personally, right? They can't just give me a call and say, hey, Ramit, I have this situation.
Yeah.
I am creating a course called Dream Job. It's a premium course. It's not going to be some $47 ebook. It's going to be quite extensive. It's actually my most comprehensive course ever. Knowing what you know, having worked with me for years to get you from kind of like a law school from being someone who left law school after 1 year, and then going into an industry of finance, and then now making in the high six figures. What would you tell people about the value of taking a course that I've spent over many years really developing and tested it and invested tons and tons of time into?
Oh, I would say that pay they should be willing to pay you every last penny that they have because, your advice to me came in like an unstructured form. It wasn't even in the form of a course, and it was worth hundreds of thousands of dollars to me, in terms of like how it changed my earning potential. And that's just cash. And then when we talk about like how happy I am now, how happy and fulfilled I feel, like how excited I am to wake up every day. Like I go into work and hang out with people who I can't wait to see, who we like learn so much from each other that like we'll hang out on the weekends and continue talking about work throughout the weekend, and enjoy it. You just don't even believe that's possible until you have it, and like you helped guide me there. So I think that I would be like, I would love to see this course. Like I think that it's amazing, and people are really lucky that you've taken the time to do this because all of the advice you've ever given me works. I took you out to a dinner to thank you after I got a job offer because you actually taught me about like closing the loop. So like everything in your course is stuff that I've been like lucky enough to get for free, but it's all advice that like changed the way I work, changed the way I interact with people. And I would say it's been like really, really influential in like who I am today and like the career I've been able to build. And there are things that like I will continue to use the rest of my life. There's no point in your career where these lessons, become trivial.
Got it. Love that. Wow. I really appreciate that. What about if someone says, yeah, I really should do this. I need to figure it out. I should do that one of these days. What would you tell them?
Get off your ass and do it today. I don't wait to do anything. You should just become impatient with yourself. You're probably impatient with other people. Become impatient with yourself and do it now. Honestly, you have nothing to lose except for your own time. So, there is no failing when you try to move your career forward. Like you will. There's just no way that after investing time in yourself, learning about other options, learning about what you can do, that you will not end up better off in like 6 or 12 months. And it's actually more enjoyable than you think it is once you get started. Like all you really need to do is take that first step. The first step leads to the second, and pretty soon you're walking and then jogging and then running. The pace picks up really quickly. You just need to take that first step.
Awesome. Do you have anything else we should add?
No, I think I'm good.
Dude, cut. That was amazing.
Cool.
Thanks for taking the time.
Of course.